from the heart of trucker America, my boy Reed Coverdale, host of The Naturalist, Capitalist.
This is what government does. It sucks. It is that perfect mixture of inept and conniving.
Some of my closest relationships are now ruined.
If you think you're going to win people over by stating commonplaces, you're just selling the other parts.
If you are just contrarian, you are by default going to be wrong, because they're always going to have some tidbit of truth.
It is about dictating every transaction that you have for the rest of your life.
Libertarians need to get out of New York. They need to get out of California.
Insurrection at Capitol Hill.
That was the beginning of my property.
Coverdale is the guy to be president of the United States.
No one's willing to change anything about themselves to get there.
Well, I'll put a 50 cal attached to my Suburban.
And he died doing what he loved, chasing a minor.
This guy's a fucking murderer.
The gulag is going to be in your house, completely estranged from everything but propaganda. Pearl Harbor was not a surprise, and Saddam did not have nuclear weapons.
Unless you solve the central problem, then we'll be fighting over Mr. Potato Head forever.
He should not be alive. This is unfucking believable.
Gotta get him out of that truck at night and get him into the White House.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I've been doing lots of episodes lately. It's been kind of nuts, but that's great. As I've said in the streams, I'm starting to work full time again on the 28th of November. I'm actually, I really didn't like working at the contractor that I did for power lines, but I'm actually going back. I got offered something really good, and I have a different job there now. So, big bump in pay and a different, different task. I was mostly setting poles there before. Now I'm going to be running a vacuum truck. So we're going to try that out for a while. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll miss heavy equipment. Can always go back to that, but this is really good money. It's a family company too. So I'll be going back to that on the 28th of November, and I'm going to be on vacation all next week up in Maine, where I won't have any internet service. So trying to get a lot of content out this week, so it's all good. So I haven't done one of these, and I don't know, maybe I did one last week. I can't remember. I think it's been a couple weeks since I've had time to do one of these. Just want to keep in contact with you guys. So something I'll talk about while people are kind of, dropping in here. A lot of people are upset that I don't push back on my guests harder in general. Like that I don't correct people, that I let people say stuff that they find offensive, or I let them say stuff that I disagree with. And this is a real problem. Like a lot of libertarians, especially, are autistic nerds who don't understand the idea of just having a conversation with somebody and not necessarily having to correct the record all the time, or tell them that, you feel offended by something they've said. First of all, especially the feeling offended thing. Who cares? Like, just get over it. I don't understand, telling somebody that they have offended my feelings. I don't understand what that accomplishes. If it's, I don't know, if somebody like leaks personal information or something, like, okay, well, that's the reason to get really mad at them and do something. But if somebody says something, crass, or, just something with really dark humor or whatever, and like, I don't know, if you don't like it, just don't laugh and move on. And there are people who a few days ago were telling me in my comments that I need to, correct people when they make these jokes. So if you're any of those people, you can get fucked. I'm not going to tell people on the show that I'm offended that they've made a joke. I'm not going to do that. I have a very hands-off approach to everything, to my Telegram chat that a lot of you guys are in, to to my YouTube channel. I don't delete any comments. YouTube does delete some of them. Or they'll be hidden or something. That's not me. I don't delete comments. I leave everything up, whether there's racism in it or, people shitting on me. You can go look. Like, if it makes it past the YouTube gods, it stays on YouTube. And I just don't believe in censorship in general. Like, I think censorship validates people even if they have stupid beliefs. So I think if you shut someone down, you don't let them talk, you start to build up a lot of tension, and you start to make them think, oh, the only reason this guy isn't letting me talk is because I'm saying something that's true. And so I think that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I just want to let people say whatever they want. And I want people to, have conversations and push back if they want. And, sometimes I do push back if I think it would make the conversation more interesting. So, I've had a couple debates, like I've been on Dak Rouleau's show and I had a debate with Pierce about capitalism versus socialism. I think I schooled him. That video unfortunately isn't up anymore because Dak took a lot of his videos down. But that was an instance where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going into a debate. I will, tell this guy what I think and argue against him. Another time I had Jason Burmis on the show and I was friendly with him, but I told him specifically, hey, I want to have you on. And this was around the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So I do want to talk about Flight 93 with you, and I disagree with you. So it was kind of I think it's a little rude to bring someone on just to say, hey, I just want to get your opinion on this, and then just trash them. I think if you're going to have a debate with them, you should kind of tell them ahead of time, like, hey, I want you to come on, but I am going to push you on this, just so they know that it's coming. And I did that with him. And I had him on and we had a debate, and I think I made a very compelling case that Flight 93 was hijacked and crashed into the ground. You guys can go watch that. I don't remember what episode it is, but it's from I think it was September. It was either last August or last September. You can go watch it and see what you think. So there are times where I'll argue with people or, push back on what they have to say, but other times it's just interesting to hear what people think. I've had left wingers, right wingers, probably mostly libertarian, definitely mostly libertarians at this point, but a lot of people that disagree with me on stuff. The most argumentative show that I consistently have is the Capitalist Communion, because we're four guys who all come from the same perspective, basically, but we have disagreements that we're actually trying to argue out. So that is where there's like the most debate taking place and the most challenging people on what they think. But I had Abby Martin on last year and I didn't challenge. I mean, I think she said a couple things. I can't really remember now. It's been a while, but she definitely said a couple things I disagreed with, but I don't know. It wasn't what I wanted to talk about. So I didn't push back on those specific things. Kim Iverson, I had her on the first time last March, I think. And she would not let me move on in the conversation unless I had an argument with her over universal healthcare. So I did. And you can go watch that. I don't remember what episode that is either. It's 60 something. I think it might be episode 68 or something like that, but you can go watch that. I did have a bit of an argument with her there because she wanted to. So I was like, all right, I guess this is where this conversation is going. It's not even where I had wanted it to go, but I was like, all right, I'll just let it go this way. So, if people come on the show and they want to argue with me, I'll argue with them, but usually that's not the case. And, I don't think that debates are usually the most constructive way to dissect something. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that you know what my positions are on things. I write Substacks that you can read. I do these solo rants, and I also, will have people on who agree with me, and we'll really dig into why things are the way they are. And then sometimes it's just interesting to have a guy on and hear what he has to say. So I did that with Jackson Hinkle yesterday. And this MAGA communism thing, it was kind of just funny because I just see it popping up everywhere on Twitter. And he was the guy that I kept seeing it attributed to. And so then I ended up getting in contact with him and asking him if he'd come on the show. And he said, sure, which was very nice of him. He has a very big platform, not really any reason other than being nice for him to come on the show. And I told him, I just want to ask you about MAGA communism and what it is. And so some of you guys are upset that I wasn't more combative. And I think I did push back a bit too. I told, I disagree with, I do agree with his opinion on DeSantis. I think he has that on lock. But even though I think Trump is, it's a tiny sliver of a chance, but he is more likely weaponizable than DeSantis, there's no reason to think he will be because of who he's aligning with already, the endorsements he's already made. This is all stuff I said in the interview. But was an interesting interview, and he did say a lot of stuff, especially relating to foreign policy, that I agreed with. So I could have turned that into a capitalism versus communism debate, but that's just not interesting to me. I didn't really want to have a debate about capitalism versus communism. It's tired and old, and it's happened so many times, and you can just go watch it anywhere. It's a generic old argument. So just wasn't really interested in getting into that. I was more like, what, this is interesting. You're trying to bring communists and leftists and conservatives together under one tent and trying to do it through Trump. And how are you going to do this? Like, I thought it was very interesting. You guys can go watch it. And the platform that he wrote, whether or not that's what he believes, because I don't know that much about him. I just have seen him on Twitter, and I saw him talking on Jimmy Dore, and then I saw him on Tucker Carlson. It's mostly me just asking him what he thought. It's very intriguing and interesting. Robbie Martin, same thing. Like I disagree with Robbie on some stuff, but I had him on to talk about, the very heavy agenda, the films he put together, describing that the people who have been pushing for war in Russia are the same people who got us into the war in Iraq. Like, not just Zionist neocons, but like the same Zionist neocons, like Bill Kristol, Robert Kagan, same guys, and how they like rebranded themselves from being neocons to liberal interventionists. And, it's all very, it's very interesting. So that's what this show is. If you don't like that, that's okay. Like if Ryan, when he has people on who disagree with him, he's a lot more in their face about it, which is fine. That's his style. Or like, I'm trying to think who else would be more like that. If you want like a Dave versus Sticks debate where they're specifically debating about how good Trump was or something, like, it's a great place to go see it. And I'm not against doing stuff like that, but it's just not most of what I do. Most of what I do is just having people on and, letting them describe what they think about things. I find that a lot more interesting, a lot more productive. And if you're nice to somebody, usually they'll plug you to their audience. So like Jackson Hinkle, he plugged the show in his Telegram chat. He sent a link. We're going live. And I've gotten, a bunch of subscribers over the last 24, or not a bunch, but like 20 subscribers over the last 24 hours. So, okay, cool. Like, I'll take them. And maybe those people will like something I have to say, and they'll be like, this libertarianism stuff is more interesting than I thought it was. So maybe I'll give this guy a listen, and, maybe he's right. I don't know. That's just the way the show is. So I actually brought up a clip from, I made an introduction to Naturalist Capitalist back, 2.5 years ago in May of 2020. And it's a little cringe. You always cringe looking back 2.5 years ago, like how you would say things, or, like how your opinions change. My opinion hasn't changed too much. This sentiment still exists, but I just want to play this. I'll grab a link from the video so you can, here we go. I'll just drop it in the live chat. So if you want to go see it afterward or share it or something, you'll be able to find it. So there is the link I just dropped in the live chat, but I'll pull it up on the screen here. This is me 2.5 years ago. You're gonna like the mustache and the hair. It looks like I have a bowl cut because I think it like buzzed my hair and then didn't cut it for a while, because this was in lockdown season. I was in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains, living in my aunt and uncle's house that we were building. It was an unfinished house I moved into, helped them side it and put a lot of stuff on it. And that's when I started doing this show. So here, I'll just play this. This is only a couple minutes long, and then we'll talk about it afterward.
Hey guys, my name is Reed Coverdale, and this is the beginning of my new show, The Naturalist Capitalist. I decided to start this show because I'm worried. I'm worried that we don't listen to each other anymore. I'm worried that we think opposition to our ideas is evil. I'm worried that we've been trained to think that those who think differently than us are somehow morally deficient, when really all that does is point to an intellectual weakness that we have, because we're afraid that someone who thinks differently than we do might have an idea that makes enough sense to convince us that we're wrong. So the whole point of this show is to break down those walls and build bridges instead. So from my name, you can tell that I do have my own strong beliefs. I am an atheist when it comes to religion. I am agnostic about spiritual things. I am a capitalist. I am a libertarian. I believe in small government. I believe in individualism and freedom. And I think those ideas have been misrepresented. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this show, to bring those ideas to light and show what they really represent. But I also think that the opposition to what I believe has been misrepresented. And I want to give those people a chance to share their platform on this show. So what this show is going to be is it's mostly going to be me interviewing other people who may have similar ideas to me, different ideas to me. Either way, I just want people to be able to explain their philosophies in their own words without being strawmanned into a completely different argument by someone who disagrees with them. So I'll be doing some videos myself. Most of these will be interviews with other people. I've already done one interview that I'll be trying to upload as soon as possible. Please watch this channel and share it with your friends. Follow me on Twitter. I am at Reed Coverdale, the Naturalist Capitalist. On Twitter, I just bring up different ideas in politics, economics, religion, and it's just open for people to comment. And I get involved too. I make comments. I try to make suggestions about what I think. I don't use any ad hominem attacks. I don't marginalize people. It's just there for open discussion. It's a good time. I'm hoping that this channel can bring some constructive conversation to people and hopefully get us to start listening to each other and working out our problems together. So again, I'm Reed Coverdale, and this is the Naturalist Capitalist. I hope you guys tune in next time. All right.
I was muted. Sorry. I don't know if you guys heard me. I paused it, and I was saying the Twitter thing is the biggest thing that's changed. Sorry, I didn't have this pulled up, so I couldn't tell that I was muted. But the Twitter thing's completely different. Like I used to be like Justin Amash. When I started my Twitter account, it was just threads about why the minimum wage is bad or why regime change is bad or something like that. But then, after probably 6 months or so, like around the turn of the year, it was really right around like January 6th where I started getting really provocative with my posts because it was fun and I had a knack for it. And I also realized Twitter is not where you have constructive conversation. Twitter is garbage. It's just for whoever can get the most viral tweet. So if you can get a point across in a tweet and it's funny and it opens a bunch of people's eyes about something, that's the strategy I moved toward. And Yeah, so that's like the biggest change for sure. But I still feel basically the same way about the show. I mean, you know, I have changed my opinions a little bit since I did that video. Like most of what I believe is still the same, but I'm more of an anarchist now than I used to be. And I'm also, a lot more radicalized than I used to be. Like the 2020 and 2021 just completely changed my opinion on tons of things. I moved, across the country. We were locked down in Colorado for a little while. Luckily, I was out in the woods, so I didn't have to worry about it. And then, I was living alone, started a podcast, and saw all these huge omnibus bills get passed, and nobody read them, and no one gave a shit, and no one knew what was in them. And it turned me into a different person. So, I am different than I was 2.5 years ago. And that's from paying attention. If I just lived in an isolated little bubble and did nothing but autistically argue with everyone who disagreed with me and tell them, no, you're wrong, and never ask people questions and just let them explain themselves, I'd probably still be the same person, basically. And this is something a lot of libertarians have an issue with. That whole that bigotry is irrational and repugnant thing that used to be in the platform. Like, we'd always make jokes about, I condemn XYZ as irrational and repugnant. It's funny, but it's also kind of true. Like, we do that. Like, libertarians expect you to make sure that you say that statism is bad and, communism is bad and blah, blah, blah is bad, instead of like just having a conversation with someone and asking them why they feel a certain way. And I'm also about, like, sometimes there's a place for just yelling at people, like at the Don Baldick event, with the loud horn. Like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. I'd already talked with a bunch of people, and they were trying to convince me that this guy was anti-war, and I was like, no, he's not. And so finally I was like, okay, here, I'll just play his own words to you. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Or like when it was with the Maggie Hassett supporters and they're just chanting Maggie at you. Like, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, try to go up and have a thoughtful discussion with someone like that? You can't. So sometimes there's a place for being a little bit of an asshole, no doubt. But, for the most part, if people come to me in a kind way and want to have a conversation, I'll absolutely talk to them. I believe the stuff I believe, and I am not scared to talk about it. And I'm also not scared to hear other ideas because I know I believe these things. I think, like I said in that video, it points to an intellectual weakness if you're not willing to have discussions with people who disagree with you, because it just proves that you're afraid they might say something that makes too much sense. So just wanted to start out with that. If you guys got any specific questions about anything, shave that mustache so we can read them. Yeah. If you got any specific questions about anything, I'll try to answer it. I do want to talk about, like, I am not jumping on board to support Donald Trump. I do think that DeSantis is like one of the biggest threats to this country as far as being a presidential candidate. I really do think that. And I've been saying that for a while. I actually pulled up an episode. I forgot to, let's see if I could pull it up here. 1 second. I think I actually found it. Perfect. So I want to play this clip. This is from, when is this from? I don't know, a year ago, September probably. I had Pete Quinones on my show, and I was talking about DeSantis and the Republicans. So here, I'm going to share this. By the way, I don't know if Pete still feels this way. I know he's gone through some changes. I had Pete on the show a couple months ago. I've got very friendly rapport with Pete, but this is what I thought. So I'm just going to play it because I think it's interesting, and this is how I still feel. So here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I certainly agree with some of that. I think that I lambast the Republicans all the time on Twitter, but if you look at what I'm lambasting, it's national stuff, foreign policy. If you have a Republican governor or a Republican councilman or a Republican representative in your state who has your back and is about localism. I don't think I've ever trashed the idea of going that route. But I think a lot of people have taken what I've said about the National Republican Party and, how they've sold us short, and how I think they've actually set up a lot of the systems that the left uses against us now. I think a lot of people think that I'm also talking about what Tho Bishop is trying to do, or you guys are trying to do. And it really isn't that. I mean, I don't go after, if you have a Republican mayor that you want to elect or something like that, I think that's a completely different level. I think you'd probably agree with that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
there's somewhere where we talk. Oh yeah, I'll just keep playing.
I said it on Tim Pool. I told that guy Sean Parnell. I said I'd rather see Mayor Parnell of his hometown,
right?
Or if he had to, Governor Parnell of Pennsylvania. And it's just because I don't believe that Washington can be changed.
Right.
And what you said about, you were talking about how the Republicans, basically insiders, and, what I called them on that show. And I thank Tho Bishop for this, because he was the one, I knew I was going to go up against a right winger on that. So I was talking to Tho because he's one of the best when it comes to that. That the national GOP is controlled opposition for the regime.
Yep.
They're controlled opposition and the regime is the left. So they're controlled opposition for the left. So, I mean, local it is, state it is, or if you have a state that is, Florida is going to be interesting, because I 100%, I mean, I don't 100% agree with everything DeSantis is doing, but as far as like the COVID tyranny, I'm pretty down with what he's doing, to the point where, I've told people in the Florida LP that they should not run a governor against the LP should not run a governor against him, because it would just, they're not going to get elected. They could steal enough votes that a leftist could get in there, and the leftists that they ran in the against DeSantis in the last election turned out to be a crackhead. I mean, a literal crackhead who would have shut down the whole fucking state. So it's like, I mean, and I know that that's definitely not living in Ancapistan in your head, because I'm advocating that the LP and the libertarians, if the libertarians that do vote, I mean, I would vote for DeSantis if I was in Florida. I don't know that I can wake up early enough to go vote anymore, but if I was if I was inclined to vote, I mean, I was in Florida, I would vote for DeSantis. I mean,
my worry with DeSantis is I do think he might run for president, and I think he would win. And I agree. I mean, as Florida governor, fine, like whatever, but as president, I think he'd be worse than Biden, just because of, he's the extreme Zionist. I don't think he's scared of any authoritarian measures when it comes to national security. So that's, I mean, I've gone pretty hard against him. It's really been about that type of stuff, because I just see him being set up to be that type of candidate. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
No, man, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I would rather see him as president of Florida than president of the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, or king of Florida, as I've said before, just to piss people off. I mean, he stumbled on it at first. He did shut down some stuff, because I remember Tom lives in Florida, and he when Georgia reopened before Florida did.
Right.
And Tom came up to Georgia, and he started hitting some restaurants and everything. And then he got his and then DeSantis, I don't know what happened. Maybe he just got together with some strategists and said, this is what we're going to play, how we're going to play it from now on. Or the tourism board got with him, because I mean, if people don't realize, Florida is really big on tourism. Kind of. I lived there for 20 years. I kind of know what Florida is all about. And yeah, I mean, he fell in line, but yeah, God, he'd be a terrible president.
Yeah.
He'd be, I know. I think I don't know what those said about, voting for DeSantis as president. I think that he and Dave talked about that once and everything, but it's like, I just don't even care about national politics anymore.
All right, so I don't want to play that too long, but like I said, I don't know if Pete would still say that. I don't know. I'm not saying he wouldn't say that. I just don't know. We haven't talked about DeSantis in a while, but I just wanted to prove that this is something I have thought about for a long time. That was, I think, September of 2021. And even back then, I was like, they're probably prepping this guy to run for president. And like I said in that clip, I do think he could be worse than Biden. I think he could be worse than George W. Bush, just because he is through and through an establishment figure. The schooling he's had, the military experience, the political career, everything just screams establishment, war hawk. I wrote a Substack about him called DeSantis, the Rights Obama, where there's all these red flags throughout his congressional career, not just things he voted for, but things he sponsored and co-sponsored. Like when you're sponsoring and co-sponsoring shit, you're not just towing the party line, you're proactively being awful. So go check that Substack out. I'll probably drop it in the live chat here. But all that to say, like, I have been worried about DeSantis running for president for a long time. And when it comes to DeSantis or Trump, even though I'm not endorsing Trump and I wouldn't vote for him, and I don't really like him at all, I do think he's better than DeSantis, because with Trump, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of renegade in Trump. Not much, not nearly enough, but you saw it occasionally. And 9.5 times out of 10, they would talk him out of it and have him just toe the party line, toe the establishment line. But like with the, that bill that he almost didn't sign because he wanted to take the crap out of it. I don't think you'd ever see that with DeSantis. You obviously would never see that with Biden. When he wanted to get troops out of Syria and Afghanistan, and it was too late, but he obviously there was something in him that sort of wanted to do it. So Trump is more of a feckless loser. He's just a complete pushover who just got bamboozled all the time. He's an idiot. He has no idea what he's doing. He's a retard in office. That's how I would describe Trump. DeSantis doesn't need Mike Pompeo and John Bolton and all these goons to make him awful. Trump is more of like a chaotic neutral, maybe slightly chaotic evil, and you throw all these awful people behind him, and then he just becomes lawful evil. He's just controlled opposition. Where DeSantis, I don't think even needs the control. Like, it's just who he is already. So a lot of libertarians are being duped by DeSantis. A lot of people right now are saying, holy shit, Trump is such a liability. We got to run DeSantis. He's our only hope. And I'm just like, yikes. I mean, this guy's going to be really, really bad. And I do still think he would win against Biden. I think, he's kind of like a Ronald Reagan, just someone who has, I think, broad appeal, especially if someone like Tulsi Gabbard ran as his vice president. Even though the midterm elections didn't go the way I thought they would, I do feel pretty confident that that's how things would go. So that is why I've been talking about like Trump having tiny redeeming qualities lately, because I think compared to DeSantis, he does. DeSantis is the devil. DeSantis is the worst president we could have. And I can't believe how many people are jumping on the bandwagon for him. It's just terrible. Trump, if he gets in there, I'm sure he's probably going to suck just as much as he did before. Probably. But at least there's the possibility of catching his ear and saying, hey, man, we don't really want to do that. That's kind of fucking nuts. And maybe getting him to change his mind. That type of stuff happened a couple times. And he would negotiate. Like when I was at these Don Baldock events talking to these Republicans, I would point out the things I liked about Trump, which is that he was willing to go sit down with Kim Jong-un. He was willing to go sit down with Putin. He was awful on China, but sometimes at least he'd be trying to establish some sort of trade deal or something like that. I mean, with the current administration, none of that stuff happens. And DeSantis, definitely none of that would happen. So yeah, and I have like a more of an appreciation for Trump, not for his policies, but just for the chaos he's going to cause. Like, I wanted him to lose in 2020, and I still think that was the right thing for him to lose, just because man, it woke a lot of people up when he lost, I think, because they were like, everything's fine. Trump's taking care of everything. Trump is draining the swamp. He's locking up the pedophiles. He's sticking up for America first. None of that was true. He was selling us out completely. And then when he lost and Biden's in there, now all these right wingers are all pissed off about our country being sold away. And it's like, damn guys, where the hell have you been? So it was, I think it was good for him to lose. But at this point, like, I think it would be kind of funny to get him back and, just to watch. If Dave Smith runs for president, I'll be definitely supporting him. I don't think Dave can win. I'm skeptical that he can even make a huge impact, but if he could, if he could make a huge impact, that would be great. Like, I mean, he has the ability to get on all these big shows all the time. And if he runs and, just runs on a hardcore libertarian message, I think that might wake a lot of people up, which I have no issues with. So I will, I'll be on that train for sure. If he doesn't run, and even if Justin Amash runs, like, I've got some issues with Justin Amash, but way fucking better than the other two options. I think if he made a dent, it would make some news, and it would, even though Gary Johnson sucked, like, having him in the news when it wasn't a total embarrassment was good. It brought attention to libertarianism. Like, he was on CNN talking about libertarian ideas, and it wasn't in the principled anti-war way that I wish it had been, but at least he was doing that. So cool. I think that type of stuff is good. So that's what I'll most likely, not even most likely, I will be supporting that, even though I realize, like, it's kind of a joke. Like, I mean, we're not going to win. But anyway, let's see if we got any questions here. Do you think the Christian right will return to its neocon roots? I don't think it ever left. So, the targets have just shifted. I'm not even sure they've shifted that much. I mean, you saw how the Christian right was responding when we pulled out of Afghanistan. They weren't endorsing that move, that's for sure. And I realize it could have gone better, but beside the point, like, I got the vibe, like, God damn it, we need to go back in there. We need to blow up the Taliban. Like, that was the sentiment I got from most right-wing Christians, ones I know too, but also just seeing it online and in the news. So I don't think they have to return to anything. I think they're still there. And, some of them might have moved past Iraq, but if you bring up Iran, which is a bigger country and would be a much more devastating war, or China, which is a way bigger country, way more devastating war, talking nuclear war, they're like, they might not say, especially with China, they might not say, like, yeah, we should, like, go to war with China, but man, they're ready to do everything to lead us up to war, just like the left has with Russia. Like, if you ask your average left winger, do you want to go to war with Russia? They would probably say no. But they support, like, closing the sky over Ukraine and giving Ukraine billions of dollars in weapons and sanctioning Russia and doing all this crazy shit that a lot of right-wingers also support doing to China. So I don't think that they have anything to return to. They're still there. Since it's AMA, Reed, are we getting more trucking videos? So I don't know. This is a little bit more safety sensitive, what I'm doing, because it involves power lines. And the regulations are so much more strict. I just did 2 days of orientation, and God, it was awful. It was there's so many regulations, so many safety precautions you have to take. And even though what I was doing before, definitely dangerous, and you have to have things, you have to have things taken care of. It's not anywhere near the same amount of spying over your shoulder. Actually, I talked to my cousin, who I'm going to be working for, about this. I said, look, man, so when I was trucking, I would literally live stream while I'm checking the tires outside the truck. And he said, I got to use my best judgment. Like, so if I might be able to do it sometimes. Like, if I'm on storm duty and we're just sitting in a parking lot, I could probably walk around the truck and show you the truck or whatever. But I'm not going to be like loading equipment although that will be part of my job too. They do have a tractor trailer there, and they do have pieces of equipment that they need moved. And then they also have dump trucks and tag trailers and stuff. So I'll be moving equipment occasionally, but my main job is going to be running this vacuum truck. It's really complicated. It's got multiple PTOs. It's got a bunch of filters you got to clean out and everything. So it's kind of a complicated system. I've actually got to train on it for 2 days just to learn how to use it, which I haven't done yet. But it's I think it's a 5,000 CFM vacuum with like a 8-inch, I think an 8-inch tube, and it'll suck a rock. As long as a rock fits inside that tube, it'll suck it right through, and then it'll pick up like an 800-pound rock if you can get the nozzle seated like on a flat spot on the rock. You can pick it right up. So what I used to do was like using an auger, setting poles, digging by hand sometimes. This is just going to be all automated, and I'm not going to set the poles. It's going to be someone else. It'll just be me with the remote and the vacuum truck, just pull up and suck a hole in the ground and move on. So yeah, so there'll probably be some trucking videos here and there, but not as consistently as there were before. Let's see. Honestly, look forward to vengeful Trump, though. We'll probably get a centrist Trump. Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I was talking with Jackson yesterday, like I was saying the only reason I'd want Trump back is for a revenge tour. That's it. Like anything else just doesn't sound interesting to me. But I'm not expecting it. Like there's no reason to think that's where we're going to get. Although, there's been a couple little inklings of it here and there. Like he flipped out at Netanyahu this spring or early spring, maybe it was a year ago now. I forget. It might have even been a year ago now. But he flipped out at him for having endorsed Biden in 2020, or not endorsing Biden, but congratulating Biden when he won before all the votes were counted or whatever. And there's this interview that comes out where Trump's like, yeah, fuck Netanyahu. I actually think the Palestinians were more reasonable than the Israelis. And then, he's said things occasionally, like go on the news and be like, man, you won't believe these guys just want to bomb. They're, the military industrial complex. It's a real thing. So there's definitely something there, but it's always squished. And listening to his speech, like he did say something about, opposing endless wars, but it was like, just like I did during my 4-year term. It's like, God damn, dude. Like, I mean, technically Joe Biden hasn't started a war yet, right? Like that's what people say about Trump. He never started a new war. Biden hasn't technically started a new war. I mean, the war that's going on in Ukraine has technically been going on since like 2014. That's what the Minsk II agreement was about. And there was a relative ceasefire, but still like the same conflict, basically. It's just been ramped the fuck up, but that's what Trump did. Trump ramped a lot of wars the fuck up. He ended up winding some of them down toward the end there, but I mean, he dropped more bombs in 4 years than Obama did in 8 years. So I don't know. I don't have any reason to believe that he's going to change. I see the incentive there a tiny bit, but not enough of a compelling reason to get behind him. Has Trump denounced his warp speed and apologized for not pushing vitamin D and releasing Assange? Of course he hasn't. Now, so Candace Owens actually kind of turned on Trump a couple weeks ago or a week ago or something. And she was, she showed this video of her sitting down with him, asking him why he didn't free Julian Assange. And then also asking him about the vaccine. Both of these issues come up. And he just goes on like, the vaccine's the greatest, invention known to man. I stopped the second Black Death from happening. I'm the best in the world. Definitely not backing away from any of that stuff. So he's, he has not reversed course on any of that stuff. And he really, I watched his speech and it was just kind of dead. And Jackson disagreed. He'd been to some Trump rallies. I haven't been to any, to be honest, but he doesn't seem to be resonating with his audience the same way he used to. I mean, talk about being tone deaf, bringing the Johnson & Johnson guys to a rally and, you know, getting booed by your own supporters. I mean, he's out to lunch. So I don't know. He has not, he hasn't reversed course on this, so I'm not sure why he would on anything else. Would you rather have a classical liberal caucus Libertarian or freedom aligned Republican for anything? It would depend on your definitions, but if it's like Thomas Massey or a classical liberal caucus Libertarian, then yeah, I'd rather have Thomas Massey. I honestly think like Justin Amash is the best of the liberal libertarians, you know, like, or the worst of, I don't think he's one of us necessarily, but he's like, I like him, you know, like I think he's missed the mark on a couple things, but I would vote for him. But if it were him or Thomas Massey, you know, number one, Thomas Massey's a Republican and would have a shot, but also number two, I just like Massey's attitude more. I feel like Amash is kind of boring, and you know, if these classical liberal libertarians were less boring, and they didn't like buy into this NATO is the, you know, non-aggression principle applied to foreign policy or whatever, then, you know, I'd be more interested. But it's too consistent that they are boring and lame, and they're also, you know, warmongers. Let's see. How many right-wingers you think got specifically pilled, quit MAGA from Trump not doing shit to help January 6th prisoners? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what a number is. There definitely some, though. Derek Prue, who I just had on the other night, he said that was a turning point for him. Yeah, I mean, what the fuck, man? It's that's Trump, though. You know, like I with me, with most of my friends that I know personally, the turning point for them was when Trump, you know, said he wasn't going to sign that bill, and he really put up a stink for like, I think like 3 or 4 or 5 days, and then he capitulated and signed it. That was massively red pilling for lots of people. They're like, oh my God, this guy is just like everybody else. So that was the number one experience I saw. I do know a couple people with this too. So I don't know how many, though. I don't know how many like even know about it. But yeah, it definitely caused some people to abandon ship. Cadis, I don't know if this is supposed to say Candace for 2024 would scramble their brains. Yeah, Candace Owens has sounded pretty smart. I don't know about lately, but at least with this whole Russia-Ukraine stuff, I don't know if that's just a grift. I don't know if she's just saying the right thing at the right time. No idea. Like, this is the thing. People are telling me, like, you can't talk to this person because they're not sincere. Well, I don't know all of these people. Like, some people were saying Jackson Hinkle is a grifter. I don't know if he is. I don't know him very well. It should be obvious from that interview. I don't know a ton about the guy. I had him on to talk about this stuff, and he was nice enough to come on. So like with Candace, same thing. I don't really know if she's sincere or not. But she's, you know, she got pretty based on like Assange and Snowden and obviously the vaccines, and then you know, NATO. Like, she said a lot of stuff. I would love to have her on this show and talk to her about it, and I'm sure that would piss a bunch of people off, but good. Let's see what we got over here. Amash seems more blue-pilled than liberal per se, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Amash is I coined that term bitch, fuck, cuck last year. And so that's like Nick Sarwark, people like that who are just god awful and wrong on most of the issues and just call themselves libertarians. And I don't view Justin Amash that way. Justin Amash like is correct on just about every issue. And even though, you know, he kind of flubbed it by going in on the impeachment of Trump, he also was critical of Trump for a lot of great reasons throughout his presidency, like where Rand Paul wouldn't call out Trump, Justin Amash would. You know, he had tons of posts about how he's giving tons of money to the Saudis and how he's escalating war in Somalia, and, you know, how he's driving us deeper into debt, and how he reauthorized the Patriot Act when he complained about it later on. And not just Trump, but the Republicans. Like, Justin Amash had great threads about how much the Republicans truly suck. They don't ever put their money where their mouth is. So, you know, he's a little milquetoast for me in some areas. And I think, you know, like, secession is something I disagree with him on. I don't think secession will happen, but I think it's good to push people in that direction. But he doesn't like that. And then obviously he doesn't like my messaging. We saw that from how he reacted to that McCain tweet. But I generally like the guy, so I don't really care. So I would vote for Justin Amash for president, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. Let's see. Adam Fitzgerald says, is there any possibility that the libertarian movement can get behind each other in regards to domestic issues, because they seem to align more on geopolitics? Division is the problem, it seems. Yeah, Adam, he was on the Red Wave stream that we did the night before the Red Wave that didn't happen, and we were talking about this. And then when Ryan left the Four Horsemen, he jumped on, and we were talking about this again. And I don't know. Like, I want there to be, but at the end of the day, you're talking about a bunch of libertarians, a bunch of individualists, and so the tendency is, you know, cohesion kind of falls apart. But, you know, I think that we should care about the big issues more. Like, I agreed with you, Adam. Like, I like Ryan, I like Justin, and I like Dave, and none of them get along with each other. So I wish that would go away. I would like to see all three of those guys put the, you know, minutia aside. And there's been legitimate grievances between those people over some things, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's kind of like, whatever, like, just move on and keep going. But I would like to see it happen, Adam. I don't know. You've witnessed it, like, what a train wreck it can be. Let's see. Mr. Anarchy says, at least with Dave running, he's really good friends with Scott Horton, and Scott could easily coach up Dave on all the foreign interventionist boondoggle bullshit. 100%. Like, Scott Horton is fucking great, and Dave's great too. Don't get me wrong, but Scott Horton can really, you know, he's in Dave's ear more than he would. I don't know what Justin Amash thinks of Scott Horton. I don't know if they get along. I know Scott has not said nice things about Justin on my show before, so I assume they're not friends, at least. But I hope if Justin ends up being the guy. Oh, by the way, I'm talking about two Justins here. So when I'm talking about Justin Amash right now, but when I was just talking about the Four Horsemen, that's Justin O'Donnell, not Justin Amash. So Dave and Justin Amash, I think, get along great. And I don't know how Justin O'Donnell gets along with Justin Amash. And then I don't believe Justin O'Donnell and Ryan know each other. So just to clear that up, two different Justins. But I agree with you, Mr. Anarchy. How big of an issue is the refusal to believe in the legitimacy of elections only when the GOP loses? Do you think the majority of GOP voters believe the elections are fraudulent? I don't know, like, if they believe it or they've convinced themselves they believed it. And there's also a difference between, like, fraudulent and stolen, and I don't know. Like, either way, I think the best attitude for them is to stop complaining and try to fix the problems that do exist, because they do. You know, Pasta Jardula and I were actually talking on my show today about something that I've talked about on the show. I haven't for a while, but I did in 2020. Tulsi Gabbard's Securing America's Election Act, which creates a paper ballot backup for every vote cast, and then you don't run into any of this type of stuff. But instead of sponsoring something like that and trying to fix things, you know, they just complain and grift off the stolen election claims and never do anything about it. And I mean, look at Arizona. Like, that, I was under the impression that I was told that the Republicans passed all sorts of voter reform and had, like, really fixed things. And that was why Carrie Lake dominated the primary. And that was why she was going to fucking sweep Arizona. And that did not happen. So, whatever's going on in Arizona, whether you're just missing with the voters or there's some fucking bullshit going on, like, you guys should probably fix that instead of just constantly complaining about past elections. Like, the Republicans are not serious about winning anything. I think that became very clear over the midterms. The analytical failure says, can you think of a quicker way to endanger democracy than to politicize the issue of democracy? The Democrats saying the GOP hates democracy will lead the GOP voters opposing democracy to troll Dems. So I'm supportive of them. The funny thing is, the first debate protest I went to for Jeremy, there were a ton of Maggie people and there were just a couple Baltic guys. And the Baltic guys actually thought that Jeremy should be in the debate. So I was saying, hey, Democrats, we've got some Republicans here who you deem to be a threat to democracy, and they're actually more democratic than you guys are. They actually want every qualified candidate to be in the debate. It's just kind of funny. There's also this. On my episode, I was mostly talking about foreign policy, but yeah, domestically, he was awful. He wanted interest rates at 0. He wanted to fire Powell for not dropping them quickly enough. He ran in 2016 saying that we're in a bubble and it's going to pop. And then as soon as he became president, it was magically, the best economy in the history of the world and nothing could undo it. But all it took was, oh my God, Joe Biden's been president for 2 days and now it's the worst economy in history. Like, some of that doesn't really add up. So yeah, Trump, like, absolutely fucked us over by signing all these bills. He threatened to kick Thomas Massie out of the Republican Party for not, for wanting a roll call vote on the CARES Act. Like, I mean, there's no reason to think he's given up, being a fucking total pushover. I haven't really seen it. I could tell underneath there's a guy who's got a little bit of tendency to lean our way occasionally, but man, he sure didn't prove that he was going to do. There's no reason to rehire him again, based on the idea that he's going to fucking bail us out somehow. Regarding my question, it's of interest to note that Franklin Graham and Pat Robertson opposed Trump's withdrawal from Syria and Afghanistan. Yeah, of course they did. Of course they did. So that was his question about, is the religious right going to re-embrace its neoconservative roots? And I was saying, there's nothing to re-embrace. They've never let it go. It's just China and Iran instead of Iraq and Afghanistan. What's this? Your dad gave me an essay last night. Should I write about the conflict between Israel and Palestine? Yeah, do it. So my dad's an English teacher. This must be one of his students. I don't know, but yeah, write one up, man. You've certainly got plenty of subject material to work off of if you watch this show. I support it. Let's see. Sorry, I did miss one here. Do you think that Margaret Thatcher was abusing her power by funneling illegal money into parliamentary death squads in Northern Ireland? Yes. I don't know a lot about that, but I would say yes. Excited to see your pasta interview. I think the GOP just wants an excuse for losing. They don't have a plan or care about it being fraudulent if they win. I agree. I get the idea that Pasta disagrees, which we're on YouTube. I don't know how long that fucking video will stay up because we did talk about some stuff you're not supposed to talk about, but we'll see. It was kind of carefully phrased. It's up on podcatchers already, so if it gets taken off YouTube, it'll be there, and it should be on Odyssey and Rumble as well. So I currently only have one warning. I've never gotten a strike on here yet, so I'm still a little Still a little liberal with, what I'm willing to put on here. Once I have 2 strikes or something, then I'll be a lot more careful. But while I've got a few strikes available, I'm not too worried. Yo, we have the same mic stand. Let's go. Nice. Our election systems suck, and the GOP crying wolf. And by the GOP crying wolf, it has now made any complaint about the election seem like election denialism. Yeah, I agree. Like I was talking about issues with our election system in 2020 before the election even happened. And now I'm the guy, apparently, who thinks we have rock solid democratic elections that don't need any fixing. Now, I was talking about like how the primaries were basically rigged. It's, the thing is, like, to me, it seems like most of the shenanigans aren't technically illegal. It seems like they change the rules of the game. So they change the dates you're allowed to mail votes in until, and, then you can basically like keep telling people to mail in votes until you get the person you want. Like maybe that's what happened in Arizona. I don't know. Like they and I'm not super familiar with Arizona's laws, but some of the states were allowing mail-in ballots to get in like till 14 days after election day or something. That's fucking crazy. Like, I mean, like Pasta was saying on my show, you have all, in these South American countries, he's saying that, from the studies he's done and actually going there and witnessing them, that the elections are more rock solid in Guatemala and Honduras than they are in the United States. So that's some bullshit. And yeah, unfortunately, you can't talk about it without, the kookery kind of being brought in. And Ryan and I actually disagree on this issue. If you want to see an interesting back and forth, go check out the 4 Horsemen number 4, I think it is, with Scott Horton, and he and Ryan actually debate over election fraud. And then we also talk about 9/11 a little bit, but Scott basically says like, nah, Ryan, this is what happened. And it's interesting. Go check it out. What are your thoughts on systemic racism? So, I think that policies of the past and some policies of the present disproportionately affect people who are black and brown. And so I don't think that, I think that a lot of the protesting kind of misses with the like, oh, it's these racist cops have got to go. Like it's this hatred for black people or something that is causing these problems. I don't think that's accurate. It's more like the war on drugs and redlining and, high minimum wages and gun control and, victimless crimes going on your record. That type of stuff has a disparate effect on inner cities and especially poor areas. And usually those areas are, more black or brown people. So you have black or brown people who end up in jail for the same crime that someone who's white in another community probably will get away with because the police don't spend as much time there. And there's also more outs for that guy. So I don't think it's that, black people have targets on their backs or something. I just think that because of our history and the way things have gone and the way, some of the laws still work, it ends up fucking over people who are black and brown more disproportionately. So you could call that systemic racism, I guess, but I think it's mischaracterized and it also overlooks the problem. It's a statist problem. It's a law. It's a legislative problem, that needs to be fixed. It's not like, oh, we need to send all our cops to diversity training or something. It's, end the war on drugs, end victimless crime punishment. And, if people could get their records expunged for minor offenses, it would be a lot easier for them to get jobs. They wouldn't be as limited and forced back into selling drugs to make a living. So I do think you can call that systemic racism, though. It's just a term that's been so sensationalized. There's a difference between MAGA and rhinos. I mean, I guess, but I think MAGA just means Republican. Like, I use the term rhino, and I sometimes shouldn't. Like, the real rhino is Ron Paul, right? He's a Republican in name only, but he's really a libertarian. Like, Republican to me doesn't mean like small government, fiscal conservative, protects gun rights and family values. Like, Republican to me means, yeah, well, I think we should be tough on China instead of Russia, and I think we should only spend $4 trillion instead of $7 trillion on this bill. I mean, that's Republican, and that's MAGA to me. MAGA's a joke. Like, I don't think MAGA is anti-establishment. I don't think they're anti-war. I don't think they're taking on the deep state. I think that, I think MAGA is just like typical Republican. Like, I mean, it's so funny with like Don Baldick is MAGA basically. And I went to a few of his events, and I never got this like, oh, he's a crazy right winger. Like, so many people were trying to make him out to be. It's like, no, he's just a Republican. He's just a boomer con. And to me, that's really what MAGA is. Like, you've gotten rid of some of the old actors who did really suck, like Liz Cheney and George W. Bush and Jeb Bush and Bill Kristol. Like, that's great. But you still have Mike Pompeo. You still have Jack Posobiec. You still got like Steve Bannon. I mean, like, you've got all these guys who, might have a different tone about a couple things, but for the most part, like, they're just they're still neocons, and they still aren't fiscal conservatives. Like, Trump is the least fiscally conservative Republican we've had in a long time. He spent tons of money, and like that guy said in the comments earlier, he wanted to drop interest rates to zero and wanted to fire Jerome Powell for not doing it quickly enough. So, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between MAGA and rhinos only if you're, saying rhino the way I am. There's still some difference, but not by a whole lot. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Trump has had his chance and was very weak. So I don't know if this guy's a troll or if he's actually a student of my dad's, which he could be. I've had my dad on the show, by the way. I think it's episode 88, maybe. You can go check it out. It was about a year and a half ago. Yeah, we'll have a private discussion about that one. By the way, my dad doesn't actually have dementia. He's just he's busy teacher. And all aid Israel, yes. Did you catch Whitney Webb on Glenn Beck? His very next episode, he had Netanyahu on. I didn't know that he had Netanyahu. I did know he had Netanyahu on, but I didn't know it was right after Whitney Webb. That's pretty funny. I didn't. I'll have to go check that out. That's pretty funny, though, that followed up with Netanyahu. Not surprising. By the way, like, I saw some people, like, this is another thing. Like, some people were mad that Dave would go on Glenn Beck. Like, why? I would go on Glenn Beck if I could. I'd go on fucking Sean Hannity if I could. Why not? Like, you're going to get exposure. And if I went on Sean Hannity, I wouldn't necessarily be there to call him an asshole. Maybe that's the move. Maybe that's the way to go viral. Maybe that's the way to get your point across. I don't know. That's possible, depending on the circumstance. But also, maybe if I go on there and am nice, but then just make a really solid point that a lot of his viewers have to think about, like, you never know. So this is the thing. Like, a lot of you guys are fucking retarded. You're like, oh, that guy disagrees with me on XYZ, and that other guy that I like is talking to him. Ugh. Like, it's stupid. I mean, this is a good point. If voting is rigged, then why keep voting? This is why I don't think a lot of people really. There's a difference between rigged, stolen, and fraud. Again, like, I think it was rigged. I mean, they fucking covered up the Hunter Biden laptop story. They, did the Russiagate fucking bullshit for 4 years. I don't think they have to. I think, first of all, I think most people are just stupid and they'll vote the way you tell them to. But on top of that, I think, like, they'll find legal ways to fuck things up. Let's see. Is it worth attempting to take office as a libertarian? Is the LP even worth supporting? So probably not. I mean, maybe there are some libertarians who won, but I'm already starting to look to run for state representative here in New Hampshire, and I'm definitely going to do it as a Republican. I mean, I like the fusion candidate idea. You can run as a Republican and as a libertarian. We can't do that because we didn't get enough percentage of the vote, but like, who cares? I mean, the thing is, just don't be one of these like post-libertarian Republicans who just don't be one of these people who's just making excuses for the Republican Party. Be like Ron Paul, or even Rand Paul is like this. Like, they talk about how both parties spend us into oblivion. Both parties want to go to war. Like, you could be a principled libertarian Republican. That's a thing. Be like Thomas Massey, just, you don't have to be a fucking Trump tard to be a Republican. You don't. Like, you can run as a principled libertarian as a Republican. So that's what I'm planning to do. I just hate that election denialism is a term now. Those Dem cocksuckers deny elections all the time. So yeah, no kidding. So this is kind of funny. I was hanging out with one of my relatives, extended relatives, who's more liberal, and he's just like, I can't believe the amount of people that just like hold on to the big lie about 2020. And he's like, there's nothing like this that's ever happened. I was like, dude, give me a break. Like, what about the 2000 election between Bush and Gore? Like, there's still people who don't believe that. I don't know if I believe that election was won. That was down to one state. It wasn't like 4 states or whatever it was in 2020. And Al Gore had to certify the election results against himself because he was vice president and president of the Senate. So there were objecting members of Congress that he had to say, like, yeah, well, you don't have a senator who's willing to endorse this. And it's very interesting. Go back and watch Al Gore, certifying George W. Bush's victory. It's pretty crazy. So you got that. Then you got the Russiagate stuff, Hillary Clinton saying the election was stolen from her. And then you've got Stacey Abrams saying the election was, illegitimate or whatever. And I don't know. There's election denialism everywhere. It's not just the Republicans. See. Do you think we should teach more about Martin Luther versus Malcolm X to show how actual peaceful protests over violence is more effective? I feel like it's an important thing to learn. It's glossed over. I'm not sure. Is it more effective, or is it like the media campaign that you got to go along with it? Like, is it, I mean, I don't know, like, you could say Antifa was pretty effective in 2020 with intimidation and everything. I don't know. I mean, after what my views on protesting, I did go to a Black Lives Matter protest in 2020 in Denver, and because even though I'm not on board with everything, I do want police reform. I want to get rid of qualified immunity. I want to end the war on drugs. So I actually made a sign that said, like, end qualified immunity, and civil asset forfeiture, and militarization of the police. And nobody there had a fucking clue about what I was talking about. And, they're all chanting no justice, no peace. It's like, well, what is justice if you don't even know what getting rid of qualified immunity would mean? Like, what do you want? I mean, they just want to yell about racist cops and never actually fix anything. So, I don't know. Like, I am not a huge fan of protesting anymore. Like, and then with what happened to the truckers in Canada, I'm not sure how effective that was. I support those guys, but I don't know if it really made that much of a difference. Like, it made some news and stuff, but I think like the biggest thing is just owning the media and getting a point across through the media somehow. Like if you own the media, you own everything. Read, just how autistic are you? I don't know. I haven't taken a test. I should take an actual test somewhere on the spectrum for sure for me to do all this stuff. Can we tell the stupid people to vote Libertarian? I think we should. Do you record out of your rig? I mean, I haven't been in a rig since I just drove a truck for I had to take just because everyone has to do it, I had to take a driving test on Tuesday before I start working. But before that, I haven't been in a rig since May. So I haven't done a ton of, but yeah, if you go back and watch my older episodes from May and earlier, you'll see like probably half of them are out of the sleeper cab, which by the way, when I was watching that video that I played from May of 2020, I just want to apologize for putting you guys through all that time of agony of shitty sound quality. Because I was new at it and I didn't get this set up till like episode 200 basically. And I had a blue microphone. Like even when I was talking with Pete Quinones in that clip, like it's pretty hard to understand me sometimes if we're talking at the same time or something. So sorry about that, guys. That's just the way it is. Yeah, well, I'm going to cut it off there. I think I'm going to be on Adam Nutter's show tonight. With Tyler Jonke and Cole from Tower Gang. So go check that out. I'll drop if you're in my actually let me drop a link to my Telegram chat. So oh yeah, some fucking dude was in my so I have a Telegram chat just so you guys know how this works. Let me see if I can can I no trying to let's see more. I'm on my computer trying to do this. No, I can't figure out how to, but I have a Telegram chat that's it's open to anyone who has the link. So if you have the link to this chat, you get in. I don't monitor it much. I'm in it frequently sometimes, and then sometimes it'll be like days without me checking it. And anyone can come in. And I also don't really clean it up much. I mean, I don't really delete posts or anything. And so some guy from the Fakertarians or some guy who's friendly with the Fakertarians or something sent some screenshots from the chat and posted them on Twitter. And one of them was me kind of, so I don't know if you guys saw this, but LP National posted a meme about fuck, what's his name? Can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the guy with the scam from the crypto thing in Ukraine, the guy, I can't think of his fucking name. But anyway, they posted this meme and they'd the guy, I wish I could remember his name, but the guy has the happy merchant hands on the bottom of the meme, and I didn't even recognize it at first until someone pointed it out to me. And I'm sure the guys from National didn't mean to post that meme with that. I don't think somebody else made the meme. It's not, I mean, even I didn't notice it. And, you know, like I'm on Tower Gang and we make those types of jokes and shit all the time. I didn't see it until someone pointed it out to me. And I thought it was pretty funny that it happened because, you know, after you guys saw that podcast I did with Dave Smith on Jose's show, you know, the way National treated us over the 6 million tweet that we made, I just wasn't a fan of it. Like, there was no malintent in that tweet. And, you know, to just like basically jump on board with everyone who's saying it was anti-Semitic and trying to get some of us fired and shit, like, it just wasn't cool. So, it's funny to see National go through something. So like they get upset at us and then they tweet that out and then they end up deleting it. And it's just fucking, it's funny. I thought it was funny. So I said something in the chat about that. Like, that shit's hilarious. And some of them were acting like they didn't, you know, no, what are you talking about? We can't see that here. And it's like, I don't think it was intentional or whatever. And it's also not a big fucking deal. I don't care at all. But also, like, oh, come on. Like, once they point it out, it's like, yeah, that is what's happening. So it was a little bit of Schadenfreude taking place there. And someone fucking screenshotted it and posted it on Twitter and was like saying, like, see, this proves, I don't know what they were trying to prove with it, but it was funny. But join my Telegram chat. It does get a little rough in there sometimes. It's everyone who's banned off of Twitter, and some of them are on Twitter too, but it's mostly for people who can't reach anything on Twitter. And it's a public chat, so you can basically say whatever you want in there. But I do want to kind of keep it centered around the show and also, you know, stuff that has to do with me in some way, or if there's relevant news and foreign policy or anything taking place or something going on that could be tangentially applied. Great. So I think my Telegram is linked in my link tree, which I don't have linked in the description of this video. Sorry. But, it was just funny. Like, and then someone was trying to connect Josh Smith to something Ryan said about Justin O'Donnell it's just like the fucking reach is just ridiculous. Like, I just don't get it. But anyway, I am going to be on Adam Nutter's show tonight, so check that out. And I will catch you guys on the next episode. I don't know when that's going to be. I'm going on vacation next week, and I'll be out of cell phone service. And then, like I said, I'm starting a job right after that, so I'll be busier. But I'll try to. Thank you. I will try to get an episode out soon. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.